Debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye. What do they do with their money?
You go to cash.
You go to cash?
You can't have a,
So where do you put it?
I don't, under your mattress.
With Bitcoin firmly in a bull market and the price once again knocking on the door of 100K, it's easy to forget the real utility of owning Bitcoin beyond its number go up technology. In a world where governments and big corporations hold vast amounts of power and influence over every aspect of our lives, the need for a store of wealth that exists outside the grips of that power structure is becoming more apparent with each passing day. Let's talk about the real value proposition of Bitcoin. Bitcoin looks bullish once again today as it climbs back up towards the mythical 100K level. The short-lived and tame dip that we saw the last week tells us just how high demand is right now, as ETFs, corporations, and large whales continue to stack large sums of Bitcoin. This chart shows that during the latest dip, whales accumulated 16,000 plus Bitcoin, or $1.5 billion worth. Now, there remains a huge sell wall in and around the 100K price level. But if demand continues, we will continue to pick away at it, and it's just a matter of time before we tear down the wall and break above 100K. But with Bitcoin in a clear bull market and vibes high, it's easy to forget the true value a system like Bitcoin provides. Joe Rogan had software engineer turned crypto startup investor Mark Andreessen on his show this week, and the conversation turned towards financial censorship and the government's ability to use raw power and influence to financially censor whomever they want.
This is where a lot of the debanking comes from, is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye. My partner Ben's father has been debanked.
Really?
We had an employee who
for what?
For having the wrong politics, for saying unacceptable things. Under current banking regulations, here's a great thing. Under current banking regulations, after all the reforms of the last 20 years, there's now a category called a politically exposed person, PEP. And if you are a PEP, you are required by financial regulators to kick them off of to kick them out of your bank.
What?
You're not allowed to have.
What if you're politically on the left?
Well, that's fine.
No,
because they're not politically exposed.
So no one on the left gets debanked?
I have not heard of a single instance of anybody on the left getting debanked.
Can you tell me what the person that you know did, what they said that got them debanked?
Oh, well, David Horowitz is a right wing. He's pro-Trump. He said all kinds of things. He's been very anti-Islamic terrorism. He's been very worried about migration, all these things.
And they debanked him for that.
Yeah, they debanked it. So you get kicked out of your bank account. You get kicked out of you can't do credit card transactions. But, by the way, you can't.
How is that legal?
Well, exactly. So this is the thing, and then you go in this thing of like, well, there's no. This is where the government and the companies get intertwined. Back to your fascism point, which is there's a constitutional amendment that says the government can't restrict your speech, but there's no constitutional amendment that says the government can't debank you, right? And so if they can't do the one thing, they do the other thing, and then they don't have to debank you. They just have to put pressure on the private company banks to do it, and then the private company banks do it because they're expected to. But the government gets to say, we didn't do it. It was the private company that did it. And of course, JP Morgan can decide who they want to have as customers, of course, right? Because they're a private company. And so it's this sleight of hand that happens. So it's basically a privatized sanctions regime that lets bureaucrats do to American citizens the same thing that we do to Iran.
Whoa.
Just kick you out of the financial system. And so this has been happening to all the crypto entrepreneurs in the last 4 years. This has been happening to a lot of the fintech entrepreneurs, anybody trying to start any kind of new banking service, because they're trying to protect the big banks. So that's been like super pernicious.
I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, 100%. And this is called Operation Choke Point 1.0 was 15 years ago against the pot and the guns. Choke Point 2.0 is primarily against their political enemies and then to their disfavored tech startups. And it's hit the tech world like we've had like 30 founders debanked in the last 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. It's been a big recurring pattern.
30.
This is one of the reasons why we ended up supporting Trump. It's like we can't live in this world. We can't live in a world where somebody starts a company that's a completely legal thing and then they literally like get sanctioned, right, and embargoed by the United States government through a completely unaccountable, no due process. None of this is written down. There's no rules. There's no court. There's no decision process. There's no appeal. Who do you appeal to, right? Like who do you go to get your bank account back, right?
God.
And then there's also the civil asset forfeiture side of it, which is right the other side. And that doesn't happen to us, but that happens to people in a lot of places now who get arrested and all of a sudden, the state takes their money.
Yes. That happens to people if they get pulled over and they have a large amount of cash in some states.
Right. Or, there've been, there's well-publicized examples of there was there'll be some investigation into safe deposit boxes. And the next thing you know, the feds have seized all the contents of the safe deposit boxes, and that stuff never gets returned. And so it's this, and this is when Trump says the deep state, the way we would describe it is it's administrative power. It's political power being administered not through legislation, right? So there's no defined law that covers this. It's not through regulation. Right, there's nothing you can't go sue a regulator to fix this. It's not through any kind of court judgment. It's just raw power. It's just raw administrative power. It's the government or politicians just deciding that things are going to be a certain way, and then they just apply pressure until they get it.
This kind of financial tyranny is way more prevalent today than many think. And since most people aren't on the government's radar for such actions, it's easy to forget just how easy it is for the government to turn off your ability to pay rent, your mortgage, or to put food on the table for your family. Literally at the push of a button, you too can be shut out and removed from the banking system that connects you with the global economy. A clear example of this happening was in early 2022, when the Canadian government forced the hand of the large banks in Canada to shut down the bank accounts of regular, everyday, hardworking Canadians who donated as little as $20 to the trucker protest. While this might be the most blatant modern example of this happening right out in the open, it's important to understand the power dynamics involved and how easy it would be for a government to force the hand of big banks, which are private companies, to close people's bank accounts whenever they want. And this is precisely one of the biggest value propositions of Bitcoin. During the Canadian trucker protest in 2022, those that donated money using heavily regulated and non-private donation services like GoFundMe and GiveSendGo were the ones whose bank accounts were frozen. Bitcoin, on the other hand, when properly self-custodied in a wallet in which you hold the private keys to, cannot be frozen or censored in any way by anyone. Now, the conversation on Rogan took an interesting and discouraging turn when Rogan asked Andreessen what can be done about this debanking.
So what happens to those 30 tech people that you know?
Start to go into a different field, try to do something different and try to get,
complete upending of your life.
Yeah, complete upending of your life, and try to change your life, try to get out of try to get away from the eye of Sauron. Try to get out of whatever zone got you into this and keep applying for new bank accounts at different banks and hope that at some point a bank will say, oh, okay, it's okay. We've checked it. It's now all right.
Whoa.
But there's no...
So what do they do with their money? What happens?
You go to cash.
You go to cash?
You can't have a... Yeah.
So where do you put it?
I don't under your mattress. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That is so insane.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if someone has $30 million in the bank and they get debanked.
Diamonds, art, do you, I don't know, go overseas somewhere?
Holy shit.
Yeah. It just happens.
So Andreessen suggests the only way out of being completely shut off from the financial banking world is to go to cash under your mattress or art. Now, I shouldn't be surprised that one of the largest crypto VC investors doesn't take this golden opportunity to mention the most secure way to hold censorship-resistant wealth is in Bitcoin. Andreessen has made a living over the last several years funding crypto projects through his Andreessen Horowitz firm that pump and dump on retail investors and has single-handedly scammed hundreds of thousands of investors. But it's still infuriating and honestly a little embarrassing for a guy that is one of the largest VC crypto investors in the world to have no other suggestion for how to avoid having your wealth frozen than storing cash under your mattress or buying art. In my opinion, it's extremely irresponsible and just shows where his incentives lie, which is not in promoting Bitcoin, but in riding off the coattails of Bitcoin in order to make money off unsuspecting retail investors who don't know any better. So sure, hide cash under your mattress or collect fine art in order to protect your wealth. Or, much better yet, store a portion of your hard-earned wealth in the most secure and censorship-resistant network on the planet in Bitcoin. And this is the main reason why real Bitcoin held in your own wallet that you hold the keys to is far superior to ETFs, MicroStrategy stock, or Bitcoin held on an exchange, which is basically the same thing as having cash in a bank. Even if you aren't doing anything that would warrant the government debanking you now, there's no guarantee that won't change in the future. Now, this doesn't mean you necessarily need to put all your wealth in Bitcoin, but having at least a portion in properly secured and self-custodied Bitcoin in an age of increasing government control and censorship is a no-brainer. And you can buy real Bitcoin and send it straight to your own wallet with services like Swan. Visit swan.com or download the app by searching Swan Bitcoin in the App Store. You go from signing up to purchasing real Bitcoin within minutes. Plus, your first $10,000 in Bitcoin purchases has zero fees. And if you already have a healthy stack of Bitcoin and want to upgrade your custody security, then Swan Vault is for you. Swan Vault is a multi-signature custody solution where you vastly improve your security from loss or theft without sacrificing sovereignty. Visit swan.com/vault to learn more. That's it for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video, share it with a friend, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more high signal Bitcoin content. I hope you all had an awesome Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. And remember, not your keys, not your Bitcoin.